Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Disability Landscape. I'm your host, Charlie Rose. With me, as usual, or usually usual, my partner, Mark Knudsen.
Hey, Charlie, how are things with you?
It's some good days, hot and humid Minnesota. What did you do?
Yeah. So our guest today is a guy that keeps himself really busy. I definitely will say that he has served in the military and also as a state representative. I don't know which would have been a bigger battle. And also at times in the morning is on the KFAN morning show. So I'd like to introduce John Kriesel. John, welcome.
Thanks for having me on. Great to chat with you fellas.
So the first question I really want to start off with, John, is how's your golf game?
It's getting better. It's getting better. I've been working hard at it. Had a little bit of a slump recently, but I feel like I'm climbing out of it. It feels good to be out on the golf course, swinging clubs, enjoying the weather. It's one of my favorite things to do. And of all the sports there are, that's the one that I feel the least disabled because the adjustments that can be made to allow any people of all abilities, shapes, sizes, physical disabilities, all of that, and anyone can play. So I enjoy the heck out of it. It was a big part of my rehab at Walter Reed after I was injured and lost my legs.
Was it golf? Okay.
Yes. Yep. My prosthetist, which I have to say very carefully. Yeah.
I'm glad you had to say it, not me, because I know I'd screw it up.
He was a big golf fan, and he was like, "Do you like to golf?" I was like, "I do, but now I don't have legs, so I don't know how I'm going to." He brought the tools out on the golf course, and I would go up there, and that's the first way I really got to learn really to trust my balance. I just had started learning to walk with canes, and then it was down to one cane. And then on a golf course, the good thing is if you fall, it's nice soft grass, you're going to be fine. But you're standing there swinging a club trying to hit a ball. It was a good core strength, good practice to really teach me how to use my prosthetics.
Oh, did you?
So when you started with the golf, sorry, Mark, did you try the wheel cart before you started to use prosthetics then? Or was it just straight up with the prosthetic?
Nope, just started right up with prosthetics. It ended up being a pretty smooth transition into it.
Cool.
But a big part of it was after I would do physical therapy, usually 2 times a day, because I wanted to get out of Walter Reed quicker, get back to Minnesota. Was really what would pick up then. I'd do 2 sessions of physical therapy, and then the evening I'd either go to a driving range or I would go to a golf course and play 18 holes with my prosthetist.
Wow.
Did you golf before you became disabled, John?
I did. I wasn't any good. Not that I'm good now, but I'm still, now that I've lost my legs though, I'm probably 25 to 30 strokes better now without legs than I was with legs, which is mind blowing. But yeah,
I wonder just because of your balance issues now that you think so much about your stroke because you don't want to end up eating some grass after every shot.
That might be part of it. Yeah, but I do more lessons now. I golf more often now. But yeah, I was athletic before, but just golf, I would shoot usually 125, 120 if I was doing really well. And now I'm I finally broke 100 last year when I put some effort into it. Got a hole in one last year at TBC Twin Cities, and then so now I'm in the staying under 100 most of the time, and it's fun. I'm not going to play on the PGA Tour. My thing with golf, like I said, is it's a sport I can play with my friends, and I wanted to get my ability to a level that I wasn't holding them back. Not that they care. I mean, I play with my Army buddies a lot of times and some other buddies. They get it. They would never give me they give me a hard time about it, but they're not.
Right, yeah.
Right.
But I wanted to get to a point where I didn't feel like I was holding everyone back, and I've definitely gotten to that point. And now I enjoy the game a lot more. I get to kind of strategize around the golf course instead of before it was just make contact. Well, now I get to play the game, so I love it. It's a big passion of mine. It's one of my favorite activities every week.
Okay.
But now, given your time you spend at K-Fan, the big question: has Common invited you to play golf with him?
He might have a while back. I don't know if our schedules line up because when I golf, I have a full-time job, so I have to do it at certain times, and his work schedule's a little different. I'm sure if I asked him, he absolutely would. But the only person I golf with at that station usually is Paul with Meat Sauce.
Oh, with Lambert.
Yeah.
Well, you just go out with Common. His game just looks much better against you then.
Yes.
I want to go back. You ran for the state legislature back in 2010.
Yes.
You got elected. What district was that from?
That was 57A at that time, which is the southeast metro. So a good portion of Cottage Grove, which is where I live.
Okay.
All of St. Paul Park, all of Newport, Gray Cloud Island Township, and then a sliver of South St. Paul. A pretty good sliver, actually.
Okay.
So that's the area I represented.
You served one term there.
Yes.
You got kind of in trouble with your brethren for voting against a bill or two, but
I wouldn't say I was in trouble by any means. I always let them know where I was upfront about, hey, here's how I'm voting. So if you need votes to pass, don't look at me because I'm voting against it or whatever. And that is one thing that I do want to dispel. People do think that had something to do with me not running for re-election.
Okay.
I wanted to leave on my own terms. I was in a different marriage at that time. I'm remarried since, but
okay.
I fathered two stepsons that wanted me to be involved in their sports and help coach and all of that. And so I that was the main reason I did not run for re-election.
And being at the State House over the winter, and it can be very time consuming. I can see that.
Yep. It was very taxing on the marriage as well too. So that's part of the reason I'm not. Yeah.
You have the distinction also of being the first person to have their prosthetic broke on the house floor.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Now there's no AAA for prosthetics. So
no.
So how did that get fixed there?
Well, one of the maintenance professionals at the Capitol, which there's always stuff that goes wrong. That now it's been remodeled. There might be less stuff going on, but those guys are the jack of all trades. They came over, tightened everything up, put duct tape on because there was a couple spots that it was to get me to my vehicle. And then the next day I was going to go and get my prosthetic repaired. I was trying at that time, I believe it was a power knee. And so it was kind of it was a test run kind of thing. I ended up not keeping it. I've switched back to an Autobach not C-leg, but an X3, which I like a lot more. But and that was when the session, we didn't get everything done by the deadline.
Sure.
And then I go to leave and my leg's basically going to fall off. And then reporters come over and I'm like, this is basically a metaphor for how this session went too.
Yeah. I wore prosthetics as a kid, but by the time I was 13, I said, screw it. I'm tired of these things, and just, lived in the chair. You ever get up in the morning and go, God damn it, I don't want to put these damn things on?
No. No. And I think with I don't know the background of how you lost your limbs. Was it at birth or was it?
It was pretty much at birth. I mean, I had leg deformities. They were amputated when I was a kid, and the prosthetics then are nothing like what they are today.
Right.
I'm carrying around 2 pieces of lumber, and it's the most uncomfortable thing in the world. You guys now they're super convenient, comfortable to, whatever degree you can make them.
Yes. And so I would say what my situation too, having been, I mean, I lost my legs in a bomb blast in Iraq when I was 25.
Yep.
And being awake for after the bomb went off, which
Ooh.
I'm glad I was awake for all of it, because I saw my situation, I saw my injuries, I saw how much blood I lost. I was pretty sure that I was going to die. And so the fact that I survived, my friends helped save my life, then doctors along the way helped save my life.
Yeah.
When I woke up at Walter Reed and was missing my limbs, I wasn't shocked. It was more of just, I'm happy to be alive. And with my back injuries, they said they had to fuse my pelvis to my spine. My pelvis had been broke. Both wings of my pelvis had been broken. So they said, if this doesn't go well, if the surgery on my back doesn't go well, I'm not going to be able to use prosthetics. And they weren't very optimistic that the surgery was going to go great. It did. And so I feel fortunate to be able to walk. The prosthetics have gotten more comfortable, the sockets. But even as the technology advances in the actual prosthetic, the method of holding it to the body really hasn't advanced much. So I do get annoyed about, especially if I'm golfing on a warm day or I'm doing yard work. You get warm, you get sweaty, they'll kind of rotate. And it's a little bit of an annoyance, but I try to never let that bother me, because I just feel very fortunate to be here and survived, and to be able to walk and stand up, and my situation could be a lot worse.
And our audience can learn more about your injury from your book, Still Standing, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes. If they go to my website, johnkriesel.com, find me on Twitter, so Instagram, Facebook, all of those social media platforms. I'm pretty easy to track down.
You're all over the planet.
John, what question I'm curious about is, how did you decide to go into the military? Were you from a military family? I'm always kind of curious on how people make that decision, to go into the military. What was your situation?
I was watching the first Gulf War on TV when I was around 10 years old. And it was the first televised war of my lifetime. And so, and I mean, there were cameras right there watching the invasion, watching the rockets. And it, as a kid, being young enough to be pretty carefree, but old enough to kind of understand the severity of the situation, I was glued to the TV. And I decided at that time that that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a police officer. At one point, a firefighter, and I went through that when I was older. I had tried out for St. Paul Fire, but that was the moment that I was hell-bent on joining the military. So then when I turned 16, I went to all the different recruiters for each branch to kind of decide which direction I wanted to go. And I joined on my 17th birthday, which was the minute I was eligible. So it was, I was hell-bent on it, and it was the best decision I ever made.
How long were you in the military until your accident did happen then?
I believe about 8 years, because I joined on October 7th of 98, and I was injured on December 2nd of 2006.
Wow.
So I'd been on a deployment to Kosovo, peacekeeping mission, and then the Iraq deployment was very soon after that. So if we had been to Kosovo, we didn't have to go to Iraq. But my buddies and I, we looked at each other, and we were not going to stay home. We were going to go on that deployment. So we had to volunteer. We had to sign a waiver, a co-TTAD waiver. I still haven't looked up what it stands for, but we had to sign that to volunteer to go to Iraq.
It's a waiver that says, I know I'm an idiot, but I'm going anyway.
Exactly. Yes. Going, yep. And it's the way of going, now no one can say anything about, he didn't know what he was getting into. Now, it's when you get back from a deployment, there's a mandatory amount of time you're supposed to be stateside before they can turn around and send you back overseas again.
Yeah, give you family time, that kind of thing.
Yep.
So I forget, what branch were you in? And then what did you do when you were serving then?
I was in the Minnesota Army National Guard. And then, so I joined the National Guard, right? join that when you're 17. And then I went to basic training the summer between my junior and senior year in high school. And then it came back for my senior year. After I graduated, then you go and do your job training. And my job was 11 Bravo infantry. So we're the ones that run around on the ground and do the shooting and the kicking in of doors and stuff. That's the job I wanted when I saw that, like I said, on CNN. I had family members that had served in different capacities.
You did then. Okay, that's what I was curious about.
And it's not like it's ingrained in our family or anything. My half brother was a mechanic in the Army, and all he said on the list of jobs, he crossed off certain ones that I shouldn't do, and the one that he emphasized that I should not do was infantry, because he said it's dangerous and they're jerks. He said they're all jerks, they're cocky, and I was like, that's what I want. I want to be the one that is the tip of the spear. If there's a war, I want to be on the front line.
You want to be, you want to be where the
I don't want there to be war. We don't hope for there to be war, but if there is one going on, I want to be there.
You want to be the guy up front.
That's right.
It is, it is interesting because I've done a lot of wheelchair sports, basketball, softball, what have you, and I've come across a handful of disabled vets that have competed, and they're pretty, which I can understand. They're pretty quiet about their service and what they've seen and all that. You ask them a few questions and you get one word answers, so okay, I think I won't ask it, which I could totally understand in that. So
that's one of the good things about the situation I was in. Again, I try to always look at the bright side. Is when I woke up at the hospital after an 8-day coma, the medically induced coma, where they had to perform life-saving surgeries and all kinds of stuff, as I got through 2 field hospitals in Iraq, then to Germany, then to Walter Reed. Right when I woke up, I asked about my buddies that were in the vehicle with me, and I learned that 2 of my closest friends had been killed in the bomb blast. My best friend, Tim Nelson, survived. He was in the seat behind me, but he had gotten hurt pretty bad. So he stayed over there, and he went back to work and forced his way out on patrols, because he definitely did not want to just sit in his room idly. He wanted to be out on patrol again, trying to make that a safer place. But when I had just learned that my friends had died, all of that, and then there's a doctor there that made me talk about what I remember, and I couldn't get through much of it because it was tough. It was very traumatic. Okay. But then they made me talk about it again and again and again. Okay. And you learn coping mechanisms. And that's why, really, full disclosure, the only PTSD I have now today is from the Minnesota Vikings. That's it. I don't have any PTSD from getting blown up, because they teach you coping mechanisms. You learn to deal with it. You learn to look at the bright side. You learn to accept things. And that's where some of my friends that stayed over there, it took them longer to adjust, because they weren't forced to talk about it. I was in a hospital bed with no legs. I wasn't going anywhere. So they said, talk about it.
A captive audience.
Yeah, we know that captive audience, but my wife has done that a few times, taking the wheelchair away when I won't listen to her. So
yeah.
So now, I mean, it sounds like you've had a really great recovery, and the coping mechanisms they've taught you and all that. So it really helpful in your recovery from this incident. And
absolutely.
Now you do motivational speaking. Is this touch on what you say to your audiences, that I came out of this feeling better and being better,
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. I inject humor into it to make sure, because if I go up on stage for 45 minutes and just tell about what happened,
right.
It's interesting, because it is insane. I still at times am like, how did that happen to us? And how did I survive? Every day I'm like, how did I survive that? Because it was 200 pounds of explosives. It's a lot. And so, yes, I take the lessons that I've learned and try to teach them without them having to go through it. I make sure to inject humor and really focus on my mindset afterwards, because I can't change what happened to me. Of course, I wish we didn't hit that bomb, but I have no control over that. It's done with. But we all can choose our attitude, how we deal with things. And it's, of course, it's not that simple. We all have bad days, but mindset is a choice, and it absolutely sets your tone for in the morning. A positive thought will set the tone for your entire day. And so in my talks, I make sure to focus on the good, talk about what happened, and that adversity really could be compared to, I don't make it so if I'm speaking to an audience at a business, that they have some adversity and they go, well, at least I have both legs. No, that's not the message. It's more
right. Yeah. You have to gear it for them, like you're saying.
Right. It's not comparing what happened to me to what happens to them. It's saying that adversity is something we all go through in life, right? And it doesn't matter what type of adversity we face. What matters is the attitude that we bring to the table.
Yep.
And that will get us through anything. Positive attitude and a sense of humor will get you through anything in life, and you'll be able to thrive because of it.
Yeah, because people ask me, why how I got into doing stand up or sit down comedy and that. And like I tell people, I found at an early age, mine's a birth defect, that when people come up and meet me for the first time, they are very quiet because they don't know what to say.
Right.
And they don't want to. And the reason they don't know what to say, because they're afraid they're going to say something stupid. So what I like to do, which I think you do in your speeches, is interject the humor part about the disability, my situation. And then the people realize, oh, this thing can actually speak. I guess he's, he's just, he's just like one of us. And then I also tell them, because they asked, why do you, aren't you afraid doing the comedy? And I said, well, honestly, getting in front of people, I don't have a problem with, because my whole life I'm used to people staring at me.
Right.
But the only difference is now they actually expect something out of me. So I'm like, oh my gosh, what have I got myself into? And that I think it's probably about 5 years ago. I was in a funniest person contest at the Mall of America, and Common was hosting it.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was interesting because in the beginning part of the show, he had something on a piece of paper he wanted someone in the audience to read, and he handed it to the individual, and Common didn't know, but the guy took it, gave it to his partner. His partner was a comic later on, and found out, because the comic came up and told Common, the person you handed that to is visually impaired. And that's why he handed it. So I'm like, oh, great. And I hadn't come up yet. So I'm like, okay, that's my opening right there. Because you always want to open something that happened during the show. So when Common called me up and he handed me the microphone, I said, hey, Common Bean, you try to get a blind guy to read something for you off a piece of paper. Hey, I was wondering, do you want me to read something off a high shelf for you later? Oh, you.
And then it's disarming too. It like you said, it gets people because they will stare. And I wear shorts a lot because it's comfortable, not because I'm trying to show off.
That's what I was going to ask you. Yeah, because when I've seen pictures of you, you're in shorts a lot, so you get that same treatment. People aren't sure, like, oh gosh, is this a weebly wobbly guy who's gonna fall, or what do I say?
Up the stairs, and they're like, oh my God, someone be ready to catch them, and
right, or they're taking bets or something,
Yes. Yeah, but you have to do that because then people see, oh, he's okay with his disability, so I should be too. And I think it's a kind of a product of the environment we all live in, and it's gotten worse because people's favorite hobby these days is to be offended. And even if it's something that that doesn't involve them, they want to be offended on behalf of someone else. And that's why Paul Lambert, Meat Sauce, he's one of my closest friends. He was in my wedding. He will make fun of my disability on Twitter because he can. He's one of my closest friends. And it's funny. And now lately people have finally realized that he can do that. I don't care. I think it's funny. But for a while, people would be like, "You're an awful human being for saying that." No, it's great because it shows that he looks at me the same. We rip on each other. My group of friends, whether it's my military buddies, civilian buddies, we rip each other to shreds. It's out of love. Now, if someone else does it, that's not okay. But
right. Yeah.
But it shows we're looked at the same. They look at me the same. I look at them the same.
I mean, if I get into a room with a group of other disabled people, it's merciless. We all know who we are and can take advantage of that. Yeah. And you have the exact same situation.
Yeah. And it's funny. There's a lot of funny jokes. It opens up a lot of humor.
Yeah, because both me and Charlie we're only like half people. Well, we always sometimes wonder if we can go and buy one coffin and just cut it down the middle.
That's savage. Yeah, I like it though. That's good.
Yeah. Okay, so I will let Charlie wrap it up. It was nice meeting you, John.
Great to meet both of you as well. Thanks for having me on, and thanks for everything you guys do. And have a good rest of the summer.
Yeah, and if you can get Meat Sauce to plug this, it'd be great.
I will post it on social media too. Just yes. And anyone that may be interested in hiring me to speak at an upcoming event for your company, your business, your organization, go to johnkriesel.com. JohnMKriesel.com also works and goes to the same page. So
excellent. We'll also be putting that in our credits so people can find you.
Wonderful. Thanks, you guys.
I want to thank our special guest today, John Kriesel, and my co-host, Mark Knutson. As always, this has been Charlie Bros. You've been watching Disability Landscape. We'll see you next time.